Suffering can't be viewed as a quick jolt to get you back on the spiritual track. No, suffering is not a puzzle that you got to put together and put all the pieces, fit them nice and neat and orderly. No, that doesn't help. It's not a puzzle to figure out suffering is. Because when you are bleeding, answers don't reach the problem where it hurts, in the gut and in the heart. And so I'm going to borrow the words of Dr. Peter Kreeft here. He gives this marvelous illustration. A child, a girl, a tiny girl, a little girl, a toddler on a bike, tricycling herself down the road, takes a sharp corner, skids out on the gravel, crashes, falls, skins her knee. Her knee is bloody and bleeding, and she grabs it and holds it to her and looks up to her daddy, who comes running to help her. And she's looking up and she says, "Daddy, why? Why?" Well, she's asking a good question. And how cruel it would be if her daddy, when he came up, simply folded his arms and looked down at his child and said, "Well, sweetheart, you're asking a really good question. You see, next time, watch your trajectory on the curves and look out for the gravel. There's always gravel on these streets, you know. Don't turn so sharp. And, watch your speed next time, sweetheart." That father would be cruel if he did that. I mean, they're good answers. They are answers, aren't they? When we're hurting, and when suffering hits us broadside, even if God did give us answers, it would be like pouring million-gallon truths into our 1-ounce pea brains. I mean, we probably just couldn't take it all in anyway. So no, when we're hurting, like that little girl with the skin need, we don't want answers. No, we want Daddy to reach down and pick us up and pat us on the back and say, "There, sweetheart. Daddy's here. It's okay. Daddy's here. Everything's going to be okay." This is what we want as believers. Our heartfelt plea is for assurance, fatherly assurance, that everything's going to be okay. It's okay. You have a child born with multiple disabilities, some sort of a spectrum disorder that includes everything from autism to osteogenesis imperfecta. You know what? It's going to be okay, God says. We want assurance that there is an order to reality that far transcends our pain. We want to know, we want to have assurance that our world is not splitting apart at the seams, that it is not spinning out of control into some nightmarish chaos. We want God to pick us up just like a good daddy. Oh, please, God of the Bible, be our Abba Father Daddy. That's our cry. We want God to be like that. We want him to be in the middle of our suffering. He must be at the center of it. What's more, we want him. We want assurance that he is consummately good. That he would never hurt us for reasons that are not wise, specific, and good. He must be Daddy, personal and compassionate. This is our cry. And so you know what? The God of the Bible, just like a good daddy, just like a wise father, is not quick to give us advice. My questions didn't start getting answered until, almost 2 years after my diving accident, when the depression had begun to lift. And I had stopped asking why out of an angry, clenched fist and started asking why out of a searching heart. And God, like a good father, doesn't give us advice. No, he gives himself. And so, in Isaiah 54, he becomes the husband to the divorced woman. And in Psalm 10, he becomes the father to the orphaned. In Isaiah 62, he becomes the bridegroom to that person who's grieving that he or she will never marry. And in Exodus 15, he becomes the healer to those who are sick. And in Isaiah chapter 9, he becomes the wonderful counselor to the confused and manic depressed. And in John chapter 4, he becomes the living water to those who are thirsty for more than this world can give. And in John chapter 6, he becomes the bread of life who are hungry for more. God is supremely good in the midst of suffering because he gives himself. Not a list of answers. He is the answer. He doesn't give us a bunch of words. He is the Word. And if you are the one at the center of the universe, okay, that's God, holding it together so it doesn't split apart at the seams, if everything moves and breathes and has its being in you, as it says of God in Acts chapter 17, verse 28, I tell you what, you can do no more than give yourself. If you've given yourself, you have given everything. The Word made flesh. That's what God gave. Gouged, with nail-pierced wrists, hands nearly ripped off, dogs barking, blood splattered and dry, beaten, bloody, with flies buzzing, hammering hatred. Those aren't merely facts about Jesus Christ, all academic and dry and theoretical. No. This is love, as Thomas Merton once said. This is love poured out like wine as strong as fire.